All right, hello and welcome to Handgun Radio. I'm your host, Ryan Machad from the wild woods of central Maine, except we are broadcasting from the wild non-woods of Kentucky. I'm here with the one and only Weird Beard.
Hello, everybody. I'm waving to the camera, even though it's still a podcast.
Jordan Bell as well. Him and his dad run the Firing Pen. If you haven't checked that out on Facebook, please do so.
You have to speak. It's a podcast.
My beard's bigger.
His beard is considerably bigger.
So we're just going to do a short little show here, and later on this will probably be cut down and edited into an actual podcast so you guys can listen to it. But we just wanted to kind of discuss and wrap up all the stuff we saw at NRA 2016 Day 1 while it's still fresh in our minds. So overall, what would you say the tone of the show was? Like good, evolutionary? I mean, me, for instance, I didn't see a whole lot of companies that were introducing new stuff.
Yeah.
It really like NRA show last year. It was the Glock 43. That was the big thing. Everybody went to the event. I saw your dad at the event.
Oh, we didn't even get notified of any pre-events this year. So.
I don't even think they had any.
Yeah.
I know I checked out a few different places. The big one, and it was kind of funny, they didn't announce it until today, was the Smith & Wesson Shield 45.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know it was at the booth. That was the first booth we stopped at.
We walked right past it.
Hoffman picked up on it and posted to the Smith forum, and I just happened to see it, and I was like, oh, what? I'm going back.
Well, the reason I saw it was Daniel Waters posted it on Facebook, and I was scrolling through my phone posting pictures, and I was like, Weird and I were at the Smith & Wesson booth, and
I've been pushing it because I was there too. And
did you see it?
No, I didn't see it.
Yeah, no, yeah, we walked through there. We looked.
And I went and groped shields. I was playing with the trigger on the Performance Center, thinking I need this in mine. And after that, I went to the Apex booth.
Right.
That, but yeah, I didn't even see unless they had one somewhere and there was a crowd around it that obscured it. I mean, there was no large banner or anything.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go check that out tomorrow. I'm really interested to see that. And
it just sits on Mr. Compact 45.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, that would be perfect for Weird.
Oh, it's nice too. 6 in the flush fit, 7 in the extended.
Well, that's very. Oh, they got the extended in there too. That's always that's one thing that bugs me about.
Well, they also have front slide serrations.
Mm-hmm.
Well, subdued a little bit, and then they've got a. What was the other improvement? I think it does have a little bit of the trigger improvements from like the Performance Center.
Well, the shields have better triggers than the standard M&Ps. I'm not really sure why that is.
In general, yeah, they do.
The shields have really good triggers, and M&P triggers are gross.
Yeah. As evidenced by the ones we were messing with today.
some of those. I mean, of course, that's one of the ultimate things with a show like this is there's so many people handling these guns.
Right.
You just innately find a gun that is just so jacked up from being abused by people that know nothing about firearms.
There was a Ruger at the Crimson Trace booth, and I don't know if they purposely did it just to disable it or something, but I held the trigger and I shook the gun, and the hammer just kind of flopped forward and back and just going just like this.
It was a rapid fire.
Yeah. There was one at the Walther booth that somebody, I guess, had tried to put back on I think it was the Walther booth, and they had scratched the hell out of the front of the slide trying to get it back on the stick up the barrel that a lot of the guns that were on at the show.
Right.
And I guess they were just reliving the 70s when they how it worked. It just wasn't working, and it left marks all up the front of that gun.
So pistols. We'll start with pistols, and then we'll work our way over to rifles. I didn't really check out any shotguns today.
Oh, I did. I did.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about shotguns then. I didn't check out any
now,
shotguns.
Are we talking like pumps and the cool tactical door kicker stuff, or are we talking like
anything? My
tweed suits and my English moors.
We are talking smooth bores that use resin shells.
Yeah.
So for pistols, let's see. We started out at the Smith & Wesson booth. Like we said, there was nothing really new that we saw, and like we said, we have to check out the 45 tomorrow. Then we went over to the CZ booth, and I know you were liking some of the CZ 97s.
93.
97,
97,
yeah.
97, yeah. That's.
Did you see the shadow?
I I'm sure I saw it, which is that's one of the polymer framed 75s, right?
No, it was a steel frame 75. It was very clean, and it had these slim cut grips that were just ridiculously textured. They were, I mean, they got in your hand good, but otherwise it felt like a classic 75. But it was just gorgeous. It was so stealthy, is the way I would put it. It didn't have that kind of cheesy feeling of a SIG, and you know how they dress up the 30 different versions of every gun they've got and have a fun name for it. This was just stealth, and it had these nice like aluminum, very thin but really, really gritty, but not painfully gritty. Not the kind that are going to get in your hand like a tenderizer. But it was just beautiful.
The SIG booth's pretty central, so we'll probably have to stop by and have a look at that one. But no, I was looking at the 97 just because I've just been intrigued by the 97 recently. Been thinking about 10-round magazines as well. Oh man, if I get a chance to get an off-roster gun into Massachusetts, that might be kind of a nice little nightstand gun for me.
That's the 45, right? The 97.
That's the big 45. Though again, I was wondering if it was going to feel chunky or not. It really doesn't feel all that.
Was I saying 97 and meaning 75 just a minute ago?
No, you were saying 75. Okay. I was saying 97.
Now then we moved on to the Sphinx booth. There were a couple cool ones there. That compact was, because the problem for me with some of the Sphinx pistols is they're so big, and that compact was really, and the hammer.
Well, they had, so again, the Sphinx is a CZ75 clone, but they're targeted for, I mean, you got like the EA Witness, which is a CZ75 clone that is for
lower end. Yeah, the Sphinx is way high
end.
The
super end is the way high end.
I'd actually say the Sphinx is probably higher end than most of the CZs you'll find.
Oh, yeah.
And it felt great. Just, the price tag, obviously.
Yep. They had, I don't think any of them they all had decocker safeties on them.
I believe so, yeah.
All the decocker safeties, and almost all of them had like abbreviated hammers, so that some had larger hammers than others, but some of them were, if you dry fired the gun and dropped the hammer onto where the firing pin should be, that hammer was gone. It was inside the recess of the slide.
Yeah, and if you've never been to any of these shows, one of the things you may not know about is that all the guns, you can work them all. There's not really, most of the big manufacturers have really great displays where you can't really see, some of them have like guns behind glass, really expensive ones, but most of them you can walk up and just pick the gun up and pull the trigger and mess around with it and do whatever you want to do. And they all have the firing pins removed. So some of the guns, you'll look at the back and it's like, well, there would be a firing pin there if the,
like at the Crimson Trace booth where they would just got sick of disabling all the, because I mean, some of the companies, they'll take the striker, for a striker fired gun, they'll take the striker assembly off and file the firing pin off. So
right.
Ta-da, no firing pin. It just got the striker assembly, but you can still dry fire it. The Crimson Trace booth, since they're not showing off guns, they would just take the whole back plate off and the whole striker assembly's gone.
I don't know if it was people mucking them up or if it was something that they did themselves, but when I was at the Taurus booth, they had a couple of wheel guns that you could not pop the cylinder out, no matter how hard you try.
I think that was mucked up.
That was probably mucked up. Or it's a feature, But so then what did we have? The high standard booth where you cut your finger open on the AK.
Yeah, that was. I think that was actually the very first place where we went. But yeah, high standard has got AKs, and I accidentally got my finger stuck between the charging handle and the dust cover, and I bled all over.
You bled bad too.
I was leaking.
Yeah.
I was leaking.
It's funny you mentioned that because I thought that their little auto mag
22 mag
22 auto mag thing was awfully sharp edged.
Well, that one is actually the original AMT auto mag. That particular gun was an original production gun.
Okay.
They put it out there because they're going to be redoing the production. We actually talked with that guy for quite a bit. They're going to be redoing production on hopefully the AMT auto mag and 22 mag and the AMT backup.
I think the one they had was in 40. But
yeah,
I don't know which one's
backup, which the guy looked surprised when I said, "Hey, we did one of these in 357 SIG a few years ago," and he was like, "Really?"
They made him in I saw one that was in 9x25 Dillon.
I've read of. I didn't actually see one, but I've seen that they used to make them in 38 Super too.
Yep. And then we headed down the line. We pretty much did a big circle around the show and tried to find the stuff that we really wanted to see first. tonight we're going to make a list and basically what the stuff we want to visit tomorrow. Basically, we went over, where do we go next? We went to High Standard, the Rock Island. If you were a fan of the 22 Magnum, did you go to the Rock Island booth? Did you see that 22 Mag?
I got pictures. You're talking about the one with the optic on the top.
No.
You're talking about the 22 TCM.
No, this one in TCM. This was a 22 Mag, kind of had a 1911 look to it.
With a fixed barrel?
It had a fixed barrel, and it had like a rail on the top, and you pulled the slide from the middle straight back.
Yes, okay, that's the right one. Yeah, well, the one we looked at had irons on it.
Okay, this one had like a fast fire or something on it.
So this just came out, as far as I know. Rock Island Armory's doing it, and it is a 22 Magnum based on the 1911 frame, but the barrel's fixed. The rear of the slide, so it's like you have the front of the slide, and then it comes up, and you have the breech block and everything, and that slides back, but the barrel stays where it is. And I think it's actually machined as part of the frame. I'm not sure if the barrel's removable. I think if you took the slide off,
it's probably removed, but it might be pinned in place.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's removable or not. But I mean, they're
It took
not
me a
going
minute to figure out how to cycle it because I didn't realize what it was. I just looked at it and
it's kind of neat because it really looks like a 45.
Yeah.
Until you pull the action back and then you open the action, it's got that long Desert Eagle type
right.
action.
It basically is. It looks like a Desert Eagle action. It opens like a deagle.
Yeah.
And 15 shot. Single stack.
15 shot single stack. That was exactly. I said, "Oh, what's the capacity on this?" He goes, 15. I go, 15. He goes, oh, hold on a second, and dug out the spec sheet just to make sure he's giving me the right information. He goes, "Yep, 15." I'm like, "That's a double stack?" And he goes, "No, that's a single stack. I didn't know you could stack that many
right.
that many 22 Winchester Magnums in a mag that size."
And if Rock Island can make those more available than something like the PMR 30,
which is extremely easy.
Right. You may end up seeing a lot more of those. And 15 shots to 22 Magnum, that's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Now, last year I got to handle, and I want your opinion on this, Weird, because you're the 1911 guy here. Weird carried around a Smith & Wesson SC all day in a shoulder holster. The Baby Rock, the little tiny 1911 380.
Yeah.
I held one of those last year, and I thought this is probably the closest that we're going to get to a newer sized gun, sized the same as the Colt 1908 pocket hammerless. It looks small, but when you pick it up, it fits your hand really, really well.
You're talking about the 380, the little shrunk down.
Little baby one.
Well, when we got to the Rock Island booth, my dad saw that, and he said, "Oh, or is somebody making this for you guys? Because it looks just like the Micromax from Yamaha." And I mean, down to every feature, it looks just like the Micromax. And he said, no, we're doing this ourselves.
No, they're doing it because last year the Llama Micromax hadn't come out because they're being, well, it had, the Micromax this year, as far as I know, is being brought in by Eagle Imports. Mm-hmm. Eagle Imports is doing the distribution for Llama. Llama is now back. So they've come out with the Micromax again. But it was funny because the same year, last year, Browning came out with their little miniaturized 380 because they had the miniaturized 22 1911. Mm-hmm. They came out with the 380. And I got to be honest, I went to the Browning booth first because I didn't know about the Rock Island last year. And I held their little 380, and it just felt kind of cheap to me. It didn't feel really solid. Mm-hmm. And then I stopped by the Rock Island booth, and I saw that little 1911, and I was like, picked it up and it feels solid. The frame is steel. I think the Browning frame is like aluminum or something. I know it's not polymer, right? But it feels lighter in just the heft of the Rock Island. Really, I think if someone were in a gun store and they picked up the Browning and the Rock Island and they looked at them, I honestly think they would probably go with the Rock Island only because of the heft. It feels heftier. It feels like it's more solidly constructed.
Now, one thing to watch for, as visually spot on as it was with the Micromax, anybody with larger hands is going to have to worry about slide bite, because I own one of the Micromaxes. Mm-hmm. And
does it have a beaver tail on it, swept up?
It does, but it sits so low in your hand because of the size of it,
right? That,
I mean, if you've got any kind of meat that wants to push up around that beaver tail, you're probably going to end up feeling it,
right? I really liked it, and I think you'd like to put some rounds through it.
Well, yeah, especially since, I mean, as a general rule, with a small 1911 style gun, it's really kind of a Colt Mustang clone,
right?
Where that one doesn't have the grip safety on it. And this one had the full working grip safety and all that. The thumb safety was a little bit probably closer to the Mustang in style. It wasn't quite the standard big old 1911 safety, but it was good. I noticed a lot of the 1911 style safeties that weren't quite the standard I was like, oh, I don't know if I like this safety trying to put it on.
Yeah.
But as soon as you flick it off, it comes right off, which is the way for a safety to work.
Right.
And so that, so it was definitely a nice gun, had a nice trigger pull. And again, I used to always write off Rock Island and all the Arm Score and all those Filipino 1911 makers. I just consider them cheap junk, but boy, they've really been making.
My dad's had a Charles Daly he's loved for years.
They've just been making good guns as one of those. Yeah, they're investment casts and all that stuff. But again, you get it right, you get it right.
So moving on, I think we went over to the Grand Power. Eagle Imports, and they handle the imports for Bursa, Grand Power, Llama, and now they're doing the Avidity Arms, which is the thing that the pistol that Rob Pincus debuted at SHOT Show, and that thing is pretty slick. So there it is. I'm holding it up on my phone for people. There's the Avidity Arms right there. And the Avidity Arms, it's a single stack, and it was designed from the ground up by Rob. And I think that's the closest that you're going to get to a full size Glock 19 single stack. It really, and again, it's still kind of in the prototype stages. It's still not a fully developed design yet. I know Rob wants to make the transition into polymer. I believe the first models were made out of all aluminum or something like that. That is it. Yep.
Okay, so yeah, we actually are getting one of these in for T&E.
That'll be awesome.
Nice.
He was talking with Michael Savini.
Yep.
And they struck up a conversation, and he took him over to see it. So yeah, we're actually getting one of these in for T&E.
Yeah, and in the example they had on the show floor, you got a chance to actually pull the trigger and stuff, and it wasn't bad.
The trigger was nice.
Yeah, it was really nice.
The trigger was nice. The reset was a little weird.
Yeah, and
it was a fairly long reset and a very abrupt reset, so that like you would, if you reset the trigger, if you slowly tried to let it out so you could feel where the reset was, you'd hit a point where suddenly that trigger was going back to reset.
Right. And the thing, I did like the sights. The sights were very good. It had a very bright front dot, and then I think it was just a black rear, but very, very thin, and it uses a 9mm Chip McCormick 1911 mag. So I mean,
a modified one. It's got a
power reel.
I think it was. It had the little stamp down the side of it.
Yeah. It's a crimped off 1911 style magazine. At least
right.
I can't tell exactly if it is in fact a 1911 magazine, but it's pretty close. But it's got I actually kind of bummed out by this part. Is it's got the big flat base pad on it, and this is just something that just bugs me about gun makers. Is I get it from an aesthetic standpoint of when you put the magazine into the gun, it suddenly looks like it's just all one piece, and it looks like that magazine was made inside the gun, sort of idea. But the moment you take that magazine out and you put it in a mag carrier, you've got this little angled shelf on there that's just going to grind into your side. And,
right.
I
throw a Wilson Combat magnet.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is I like with the 1911s they just put the you either got the flat base pad or you got the bumper.
Right.
And the bumper does not sit at all true to the base of the gun. It's just there to be a bumper.
Right.
And that's awesome because it just there's no sharp edges to rub against your skin while you're carrying it. I just wish people would think more about the fact that magazines don't just sit in the gun all the time.
Right. And the next one at the Eagle Imports booth was one I had seen. David, a guy I know from Grand Power. Grand Power, you guys might know, is the gun that has the rotating barrel, hammer fired. Really great triggers. I know a friend of mine, Alex, used to shoot those quite a bit. We did a show on those, and they just recently got into the country the striker fired version. So most of these guns up until this point have been hammer fired, and now they have the striker fired version. And honestly, it is a really, really, it has an interesting feel to it. It's not a bad gun. and the guns themselves are pretty good. The striker, it feels unlike any other striker fired gun I've ever tried. The trigger pull is good, but the reset was just kind of, I don't know. You tried it and you were kind of like, the reset was just kind of I don't know. Yeah, maybe a little bit springy.
And the trigger pull, it's kind of like a little bit like a Walther what is it, PPS, or a XD, where it's kind of more of a fake double action, where I think it's technically a single action gun, but it's got a whole lot of spring pressure over that single action sear, and I don't like the feel of that.
Right.
I really like to feel that little extra weight and camming of pulling a striker back or pulling a hammer back than just have some string to fight with.
Now the next one here, and I know this isn't a handgun, but this is a special NRA coverage episode, so we are going to talk about some rifles that we saw. This next one is from K&M Arms, and Weird's probably going to own.
I'm kind of falling in love with this gun.
He's probably going to go over there tomorrow and play with it more.
I can't remember what were you looking at because you walked right past this booth. And I was behind you, lagging. It's crowded there, so I would often get like stuck way behind you.
I think I was looking at some reloading equipment, but that's the gun that he's talking about.
So I saw these bullpups in there, and I never heard of the company before, and I don't like bullpups that much. And so I saw a bullpup that I hadn't heard of, and I'm a snarky individual. I'm not proud of this. But so I said, you know what I'm going to do? I see Ryan over there is looking at something else. I see this. I'm going to pick up this gun, and I'm going to dry fire it. And then I'm going to go over to Ryan and laugh at how mushy and yucky the trigger is, because as a general rule, bullpups have horrendous triggers. And, certainly stuff like, the Steyr, the Steyr AUG is probably one of the best bullpups out there as far as
probably the worst safety I've ever used on anything.
Oh, the crossbolt. It's lame. It's really, I do not like the controls on the AUG at all. They are the least intuitive controls. But
don't you dare make fun of Steyr.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, at least the AUG is better than their friggin' handguns.
that kind of blocky one that looks like a ray gun with the mushy trigger.
The mushy triggers. It doesn't have a mushy trigger. All right, we are completely kidding on that. Yeah, but I'm not kidding about that. I mean, the AUG's trigger is a nice for a bullpup trigger, but again, it's nice for a bullpup. You would not compare the trigger of an AUG to an FN Scar or a good AR-15 maker. It's just bullpups are not the same class.
It's a different class, yeah.
Yeah, and like the Tavor's trigger is.
Well, I mean, you got to deal with all that linkage going on with that.
The Tavor trigger is disgusting. The Tavor trigger is miserable. I don't know why people give it the credit that they give it. It's a mushy, squishy trigger and all that. And so here I'm seeing a bullpup that I haven't even heard about this thing. So this thing has got to be junk. This has got to be one of these little fly-by-night companies. And I just pick up the gun. I don't even really pay attention. I pull the action back, and the action is really stiff on this gun. But pull the action back and then pull the trigger and go, what was that? It felt like a really good AR trigger.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, Ryan, come here. Check this out. This is not a bullpup trigger.
I've said this to a couple people today, but I said that would be a damn good trigger on a standard rifle.
Yes.
Let alone a bullpup.
And then the owner, what's the owner's name?
Ken, I believe. It's K&M Arms.
Yeah. So he comes over and sees us, and he sees our media badges, which always brings the gab out of people. He starts talking about it. He goes, "Oh yeah, no, this is a really nice gun for a 308 bullpup." And I go, "Oh, it's 308." And I'm an FAL guy. I like my 308 battle rifles, and so he ends up showing us essentially the reason why the trigger is like that is instead of you pushing the linkage backwards towards the action, it's actually working off the top of the trigger pull it, and you're actually pulling a trigger bar across the top of the action.
Right.
And so it's all under direct tension, and so that bar is not going to bow like it does, so you don't get that mushy feel. for it.
It's really great.
Yeah, and he says he can. It's got a threaded flash hider on it, which would be very, very bad in Massachusetts. But he says he could either permanently attach a muzzle brake or thread on an end cap, and he's. I didn't ask him if it is in fact the Bushmaster, if he got the Bushmaster product, if that's licensed from Bushmaster.
It was called the M17 as though on the side of the gun it was stamped M17.
Yeah.
So don't go into it having the reputation of the original Bushmaster M17 in your mind, because that would be unfair to this product. I think it deserves its own.
But it definitely has a lot of the feel of it.
I'd read about them bringing back the M17, but I thought Bushmaster themselves was doing that.
And the M17, like, it wasn't that it was a terrible gun externally. I guess it was unreliable, from what I understood.
Yeah. But this thing it very much looks like an AR-15 in the back end of it.
I believe it's actually an AR-15 trigger group. It's
an AR-15 trigger group. It's the AR-15 controls, and it's got the I guess is the safety back there? Yeah, the safety must be back there. Okay.
Yeah, actually actually, AR-15 bolt release, AR-15. Safety.
I hadn't thought about the safety. That's a little the magazine release. That's actually not a bad place for a bolt.
And you can exchange quite a few parts from the AR-15 on this gun.
Yeah, well, that's how the M17 was.
Now this other one. This isn't really a gun, but the Arma sight, the thermal sight that we checked out.
Oh, God, was that the one that had to be powered by the battery pack off to the side?
Nope. Had three. You could either use CR123s in it, or you could use AA batteries just by taking off the battery cap, flipping the disc piece on the inside.
It's got a big
contact piece, yeah. And it was really cool because that's the sight right there. And you would think it would be heavier than it was, but you got great IR images. And yeah, you're probably that's not coming up at all.
But you're the Predator.
Yeah, you're basically the Predator.
You're the Predator. I mean, it is. I've seen before. I've seen IR sights where hot objects kind of glow. It looks like a starlight scope where you've got the green screen image, and then there's kind of an artificial light being added from things that have body heat. But this thing's doing the full thing. I was scanning over. There was a guy in the booth that had glasses on, and you could see the cold of the glasses lenses concealing his eyes, and then the heat of his face.
Nice.
The next one I really want to talk about was the Honor Guard pistols.
I missed that.
You missed. Okay, we're gonna have to take you. Jordan's gonna tag along with us tomorrow, and we're gonna go check out all these places. But the Honor Guard pistols, I have been hearing about these from Paul Carlson, and I've heard they're a really good company. I like the concept. I like the fact that they have the chassis system. It's kind of similar to the 320.
Now these are the ones with the punch.
Yeah, with the fist device, which honestly, I don't. Some people were like, "Oh, it looks stupid. It's a bad idea, or whatever." First of all, you got the chassis system, so if you don't like it, pull the chassis system out, put it in the frame that doesn't have the fist device. But because, on the 320, the chassis system is the serialized part. If you're carrying it inside the waistband, it's not the length of the dust cover or the slide that's going to be the problem. It's going to be the grip frame. Yeah. So, I mean, the fist device, whatever. I mean, if you're someone who is, if you're a cop and you're going to be getting into physical altercations and maybe on a fight and you do a contact shot, you're going to want that fist device. I mean, it doesn't stick out that far.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to remember in the reports, but I'm pretty sure that, not to get too political on it, and we didn't actually stop by Kel-Tec's booth for this, but I'm pretty sure actually with George Zimmerman shot Trayvon Martin, he got one shot off, and that was all he had because the muzzle was in contact with his chest, and the gun did not extract the round that was in the chamber.
Hey, mine doesn't extract either.
Yeah. First of all, the guy said, I mentioned Paul, and he said, "Oh yeah, I've seen him around." And then he said, "Someone tried to ask me how long it took to take the gun apart," and he said, "Well, time me." And so Weird timed him.
I pulled up my watch and I waited for a round number to come up on the second time, and he got that. I wish we'd recorded it.
Is it like
Yeah, we should have.
Takedown, or is it?
He did it. He honestly did it so fast. I kind of lost track.
He did it in 10 seconds.
Toolless.
Yeah, toolless.
Okay.
Just took it down to the chassis. He pulled the barrel and everything out.
He pulled the slide off. He pulled everything out of there. Then he reached down. He pulled the chassis out. And he set the frame and all the parts down.
Yep.
And it weird.
And even took there was a little dust cover on the back of the chassis sort of thing that I think he said so you could add a manual safety to the gun.
Yes. Yep. The gun it's modular as hell. And I think, and people have compared it to the Shield, and we can't ignore the fact that it does kind of resemble the general shape and form factor of the Shield. Mm-hmm. I think it feels better than the Shield. I think the texturing on the grip, I think all of that, it does feel better. I know some people don't care for the big billboard writing on the side of it. I know you don't.
I love billboard writing. I like if you're gonna buy a gun, be loud and proud.
And honestly, it doesn't matter to me if the gun works and it's reliable and it offers features that aren't offered in other guns. Then I don't give a damn about that. That doesn't bother me. But I really like those Honor Guard pistols, and I'm actually going to have to go back tomorrow and maybe do a video with those guys.
We should really do a video with the takedown because that was quite impressive.
We should actually bring the mic over and talk to them too. That way,
and we should do the video with the thing so we can put it in slow motion.
So we can watch.
You guys were kind of all around. We ended up going up by the NRA store, hitting as far over as we could get, and then just sort of zigzagging down to where if you looked on the map and thought of it as a loading bar, like, downloading or something.
Right.
We got to about the 60% mark and said, we're bugging out. We're tired.
Yeah.
And you guys were kind of pinballing.
We were there. We did a big circle around the whole show floor.
We were essentially doing a spiral.
Yeah.
We kind of started by going around the outside of the whole floor, and then we kind of jagged in a little bit and did another circle, and then we were sharks.
We ended up, we stayed until about 5:30.
We bugged out at 5. We were hoping to beat that traffic because coming in, that hour and a half plus sitting in traffic to come in, we were just thinking on the out.
Right. It wasn't terrible though.
No, we got home.
We got right out.
It took a little while to get there, but that's always Friday. Friday at the NRA show is always tough because you're bringing so many people into a major metropolitan area.
Right.
And hey, guess what else major metropolitan areas have? That people go there to work.
Yeah.
People live in the suburbs and they commute in. So you have all the people commuting in for their regular jobs, plus of all of us who took time off of our jobs to come on in.
Right.
Well, now I'll plug my home city. When we had it in 2014 in Indy, I parked, walked in, did my thing, walked out, drove away.
Nap town.
Just saying.
Though Pittsburgh was the worst. It took us 2 hours on a Friday in Pittsburgh to get in.
So the next one here, the Kimber revolver.
Oh.
Barring all the stuff we've heard recently about it not coming out, we'll just focus on the technical specs. All I know is that I've heard it's been delayed at least a year. It will not be coming out this year. It feels really good.
It's a shame that this delay is coming through because the guns, and it actually well, did you handle, how many of them did you handle at the booth? Did you handle just the one that
I handled that one, the one around the other side, and then they handled the one at the Crimson Trace booth.
Yeah, because that was the big thing that I got was it's one of those. Yeah, the first I only handled one at the Kimber booth, and that is a very, very, very nice revolver.
Yeah.
But also on top of that, the one that Crimson Trace had was just as nice.
They had one at the Crimson Trace
with the laser grips on it.
That must have been where I couldn't get it to because that Crimson Trace booth was pretty crowded.
See, when we went, it was pretty much empty, and a lot of the Crimson Trace guns were really jacked up.
Oh yeah,
I had to fight my way to get to that new laser light combo for the Shield.
Yeah,
which, by the way, awesome.
Yeah, it really that revolver. I like the trigger pull. I like when you open it up, the machining on the cylinder. The cylinder was very pretty.
Cylinder was beautiful.
Yeah,
like the just the lines on it and all that is just
now it's hexagonal, right?
Yeah, it's got a bunch of flats on the sides. The sights were awesome. The sights were really
awesome.
for standard sights on a revolver,
and they're replaceable. So it's one of those. They were black on black.
Black on black.
So they were really. It was a really good sight picture, but I hate black on black. I need contrast on.
Now was it like a back leaning?
It was kind of like a Novak low mount.
Okay.
And it's in the kind of shape. So it's serrated on the back side and black on black.
And the way they did the frame, the sight actually melds right into the top strap, so you don't have anything like protruding up to snag.
Okay.
Like as it comes up over the hump where the hammer is, the sight just melted right into it. It looks great. I mean, the sight just melts right into the top.
Okay,
strap.
kind of how it's seated down lower, like on the Springfield Range Officer.
Yep. And I always have a hard time, especially with like smaller guns. Like, I mean, if a super duper micro gun, you can pretty get an idea, and a great big gun, you can kind of get an idea of how big it is.
Right.
What do you think on the weight?
It wasn't that bad. I mean,
it wasn't bad. It was a little heavy.
I mean, you got to remember, it's all stainless steel.
Right.
But it is a 357 Magnum. I know people carry these lightweight 357s, and that's cool and all, but
who are you looking at?
But I mean, follow-up shots, being able to keep your recoil control and stuff like that with stout 357 loads, I don't think would be a problem with this gun. I think you would have a little bit better.
Plus, also, if you're a little bit recoil adverse, having a lightweight 357 that's going to kick you around a little bit might preclude you from practicing as much with it, and that just gives you a lot of confidence.
And it holds 6 shots,
right?
Not 5.
Yeah, but it's still nice and small. That was the nice thing about it, is it's literally what it is. It's a little bit bigger than a J-frame. It's I think you've handled more Colt Detective Specials. Would you say it kind of feels?
I'd say it's in between those two.
The smaller or the larger?
It's a little bit bigger than a J-frame, but maybe just a hair smaller than a Detective Special.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, maybe just a hair. The next one that I thought was kind of cool, and I don't know if your dad saw this because I'm sure he'd like it, was the Ivor Johnson 4-shot 22.
He might have seen that.
I
think he might have seen that at SHOT. I think we're getting one of those.
I think they call it the Pocket Ace. So it's a little 4-shot Derringer.
It is really little.
It is really tiny.
I think it's smaller than a North American Arms mini revolver.
And it's basically a little 4-shot, like a pepper box type of thing.
Yeah. It almost looks. I almost first thought it was some sort of like miniaturized cop Derringer, but it's single action only. And
I had heard about this a while back, and Ivor Johnson was supposed to be bringing it back. I didn't see it at all at NRA show last year, and I was kind of disappointed. This year they had a prototype version. They weren't fully functional or anything like that, but they just kind of showed you, and they were a little bit rough, but they just kind of showed you the general idea of what they were going to do with it. And so it's a 4-shot 22. The barrels slide forward on the gun.
It actually just comes completely off the gun. There's a little locking bar. To be fair, these were rough prototypes, so I really
might not be the same one I'm thinking of. But there was something similar that he was looking at for one of the divisions in cowboy action shooting, and it was a little multi-shot 22 Derringer.
Yeah, and
suspiciously similar to that, but not that, because that's black and.
Well, Ivor Johnson did make that.
They had a silver one too.
Yeah, they had a silver one too.
Well, that might be what I'm thinking.
But I really want to see that, because it reminds me of like a North American Arms type of deal, and it's historical context, because they did make it back in the day, as far as I'm aware. So really excited to see that. Now, this next one, the Korth.
Oh,
so we spent quite a while actually with Grant Cunningham at the Korth booth, and we're
going to be talking about doing an upcoming show. Just there is so much to talk about.
There's a lot of material about those guns. So Grant, basically, Nighthawk Custom is being the importer and the distributor for the Korth revolvers, and I think Korth guns have been at SHOT Show year after year. I think they may have had a hard time breaking into the American market. They have a very, very high price tag for entry. However, with Nighthawk Customs, everybody knows they're not a cheap gun. You're paying for your quality and everything like that.
They don't cut corners.
Right, exactly. And as a 1911 guy, there's everybody makes a 1911 nowadays. And to set yourself apart, you may need to go to that higher end. The Korth revolvers fit well, I think, with Nighthawk's portfolio of what they do and how they do it. And honestly, the market has not had high-end revolvers ever since the Colt Python went away. Mm-hmm. Really, realistically, I mean, you'll pay
not
like
to the level, these
No,
cords.
no.
Oh God, no.
You got performance center guns and all that, but that's. Still,
But even then, you're shelling out $1,600, and I've held some performance center guns, and I've been like, well, they're good, but I mean, there could be some improvements. The Korth, and you're going to see this in the video that we post with Grant. I'm hopefully get it posted by tomorrow night. The Korth revolvers, they're user adjustable, which is huge. Because as I noted in the video, I said that's not been done in any revolvers that I know of. You have companies like SIG with like their X5s where you can adjust the trigger pull, how far forward it is, the reset, the weight, stuff like that with maybe an Allen key or something. The Korth guns, I guess, you can go in, open up the side plate, and do some adjustments with a small tool. And you can adjust, what was it, the travel?
There was a couple of different springs. You adjust the main spring, which is the hammer weight. You could adjust, was it the return spring?
I think it was the rebound spring, yeah.
And then there's a cam in there.
Yeah. And then there's a few other camming surfaces that you could also adjust. So the user adjustability, they have multiple different models. They have the used to be the Sky Marshal, now it's called the Sky Hawk.
Yeah.
And that's the one that has, it's a little snubby gun and has the cylinder that's sized exactly for 9mm.
It's not the cylinder, but it's got the shortened frame window.
Yeah, and the shortened frame window.
It looks like a 38 special gun, but that you just shrunk it. Just
like that Taurus 380.
Yeah, sort of same idea. That Taurus, when they came out with a 380, they actually made the gun sized for 380. It wasn't a 38 special gun with a huge forcing cone barrel and like a short cylinder,
or a long cylinder and a lot of freeboard.
Right, exactly.
And that's the thing I always appreciate, because that's one of the things that bums me out about pistol caliber revolvers is they're really not pistol caliber. They're guns already designed for it. I mean, I've got a lot of problems with that. I don't like 9mm 1911s either, because it's a big long action gun. It's fine if you want like 10mm or a 38 Super or something like that, because it's a long action gun. But why would you have that super long action gun for a short cartridge like 9mm?
Yeah, it really was. It was very, very nice. They also have a few other models, PPC model with like an aristocrat rib, which was cool. You can change the front sight, so you can twist the front sight and actually change that out. That was really nifty.
Let me jump back on the user adjustability. Is that something that is going to be, you're going to want to have been a revolver owner for a few years and know your business when you open that side plate? Or is this going to be one of those things where if you're not practically a gunsmith from years of experience, you're going to still be terrified to pop open that side plate?
So we did ask Grant that question, and there are three things that are user adjustable that should be able to be done by anybody who has a general understanding of the gun.
That's cool.
If you're not afraid to take, I mean, it's
that's the other two things.
Okay.
So the first three things, I don't think you have to take the side plate off. I think you can adjust outside. The screw, one screw was underneath the grip. Yeah. Another screw
it was an over travel adjustment.
Yeah, over travel adjustment. But then there are two things. If you're comfortable taking off the side plate, there are two things where you could replace like the roller bearings inside. That would change it. Grant said you may want to take it to a gunsmith, and any gunsmith who has any understanding of revolvers would be able to do it. If you have an understanding of it and how they work, you would probably be able to do it. But the three ones without having to take the side plate off would be the ones that, anybody who just kind of understands the gun could adjust.
Right. Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because when you're talking about a gun that's that expensive,
right?
You don't want to open that up and have the chance of wrecking your gun.
Screw it up. Yeah.
That's the slightest.
You don't just want to mess it up.
You don't want to do it, yeah.
They're and I mean, price wise, you're looking at $3,500 for some of these revolvers, which I know sounds like a lot, but if you pick the gun up and you pull the trigger on it and you look at the fit and the finish, you'll understand why.
Yep.
And it's an investment as much as it is a gun that you would want to shoot, and it's something you probably end up passing down to your kids.
Well, we got to talk about the extractor on the 9mm.
Yes, the extractor. So for a long time, we've had guns that say, oh, yeah, you don't have to use moon clips. You can shoot 9mm out of them and use no moon clips. And 9mm is rimless, obviously. And some of them have used a little like tooth system that would jam into the rim of the case. On the Korth, they use the similar system, but they refined it to the point where there was a guy that torture tested the gun, I believe over in Germany, and could not get it to malfunction due to like a case getting stuck under the star or them not coming out. The chambers are stepped, so it headspace is on the case mouth. It's not headspace on the rim.
Again, and that was the big thing, because I'm pretty sure all the other non-moon clip pistol caliber revolvers
headspaced on the groove.
Headspaced on the doohickey
right.
that was in there, that actually caught the rim, because so you were like, I think that's how the Charter Arms works, is you're actually essentially retracting the let's call it a claw.
Yeah.
The extractor. You're retracting the extractor by when you push the round into the cylinder, and then as soon as that rim comes in place, it pops out and sticks in the rim.
Right.
You can overshoot that. This gun is with the star all the way down. The
teeth are pulled in.
The extractor claws are completely pulled in, and so you're dropping the round straight in as if you're dropping in a 38 or a 357 into it, and it's not going to headspace on the rim because there's no rim. It's going to headspace on the case mouth,
right? Which is the way a semi-auto cartridge should.
Yep. And then when you push that extractor claw, when you push the star, excuse me, I'm using semi-auto terms, because I'm talking about auto pistol cartridge. When you push that star, the extractor claws pop out
and grab
and engage the cartridge, and they pop out at a slight angle, so that I didn't necessarily fully understand the geometries of it, but it's not dead at, say, the 6 o'clock position,
right?
Where I've seen all the other ones before. It's a little bit more off at like a 4 o'clock type position,
and they look really beefy.
They're really beefy.
Yeah,
great.
They were kind of a sort of a brassy color, weren't
they?
They're tin coated, TIN coated.
Tin. Yeah, they're tin coated, but Grant thinks that he didn't want us to quote him on it exactly, but he said he thought it was tool steel.
Yeah.
So it's a heavy steel thing. But so as soon as you engage the rod on the extractor, the first thing it does is there's actually a 2-stage to it.
Yeah.
First stage extends those claws and catches.
Second stage kicks them out.
The second stage kicks them out. Oh, and another just interesting to tell you. Well, we're still talking about the Sky Marshal. I'm thinking about.
about the mongoose that he had.
Yeah, but on the Sky Marshal, that ejector rod throw is nothing.
Yeah,
and I went, ooh, that's, especially as someone who carries a snub nose 357. Right. That gun, when I do a mag change, I open up the cylinder, turn it up, and I wail on that ejector,
right?
Because you can't just do the full extract like you can with 38s, where just push it all the way down and those mouths will clear and they'll just drop free by gravity. You have to hit it hard so they have enough momentum to clear all the way out. But it goes 9mm is a tapered case. You just need to break it free and they drop out.
Right.
So
the other thing he mentioned was we were looking at the center line down the bore.
That was cool.
Was the axis point where the pin was slightly off center where the cylinder rotates?
So Grant unloaded gun, no firing pin, but we were looking right down the barrel, and he says, "There you go. Here's the tip of the front sight blade is right in the center line of the barrel, which is right in the center line of the frame window, and then you can see the pivot pin for the crane." And it's a little bit out. And he says, why do you think they did that? And why did they do that, Ryan?
A common problem with a lot of revolvers, if you put oversized grips on them and you go to use your normal speed loaders, the speed loaders won't fit past the grips. These guys, who are shooters, the people who designed the revolver, put that a little bit off center. So when he opened the cylinder and pointed out, look at the space between the cylinder and the frame. There's a lot more space between the cylinder and the frame than you would normally see on like a Smith & Wesson. So it allows you to use any grip you want and not really have to have any concerns about your speed loaders interfering with the grip and not being able to reload the gun efficiently.
Yeah. I think we shouldn't give away the whole show.
Yeah, we shouldn't give away. Yeah.
We talk for ages.
Yeah, we still got more to talk about.
Here's a good segue from a Corth into a Taurus, but since you brought up grips, I don't know if you guys got a chance to feel the grips on the small, like 85s over at the Taurus booth or not, but they're probably some of the best factory grips I've felt on a small frame revolver.
Oh yeah, the only factory grips I was feeling on those are the old style
ribber grips.
Yeah, the Hogue Tiger Tamers and the rib ones, and I don't like those at all.
Check out the they were right up front, but like I think their 9mm has it. The 380 I think had it, and then the newer 85s had it for sure.
Yeah.
It's extremely ergonomic. It's got that tacky feel like the ones you were saying you don't like,
Mm-hmm.
but it's
slick.
It's got it looks like it's checkered, but of course it's rubber.
Right.
But you just gotta feel it. They fit your hand perfectly.
Yeah, we'll have to go try those.
And they're nice. They're just a breeze to hold. I was actually going to tell the tourist guy that was standing there talking, I was like, this grip, this will sell me on one of your guns. I mean, I've got a Taurus already that I like, but normally I would probably look elsewhere, but that grip, sell it by itself and I'll be happy.
Yeah. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up our day one. We're going to make a list, like we said, and go visit a bunch of stuff. I know, Jordan, you went around with your dad last night. You're probably going to tag around with us a little bit more tomorrow. So we're going to go around and look at stuff that you want to see. There will be pictures up on the Handgun Radio Facebook page. Check out the album. There's going to be NRA annual meeting day 1 and day 2. So be sure to check out that album, check out the pictures. And every pistol that I try to pick up, I try to get a picture of each side and then down the sight, so that way you guys can see what they look like if you were to be holding the gun in your hand. There'll be some video coming up when I get home, so be sure to check that out. And so, Weird, where can people find you?
You can find me in bed. I'm tired. You can find. Oh, look at this.
20 till 1. Oh.
Yeah, for those looking at the video there, I've got my Squirrel Report T-shirt on. You can find me at the Squirrel Report, and I'm also at the Gun Blog Variety Cast, and my blog is weirdworld.com.
And Jordan, where can people find you and your dad?
You can find us at the Firing Pin on Facebook. We've got a .com in the works. We've got a YouTube channel in the works, and we've got Firing Pin on Instagram.
And for those of you from my part of the country, that's Firing Pen.
Yeah, we do a play on words. When you're typing it in, spell it like the ink pen. Because where we come from, they sound the same. So, hey, that's cute. Let's make it the Firing Pin because we're gun writers. But yeah, they let on to us that apparently they don't sound the same.
You've been saying that for so long, and I could have sworn it was the firingpin.com.
Yeah, that'll take you elsewhere. Those guys aren't any good. You need to go to the.
Excellent. So, and be sure to check out the Firearms Radio Network and also help support the Firearms Radio Network, firearmsradio.tv/Amazon if you go to make any purchases on Amazon. And check out the Patriot Patch Company, awesome patches and T-shirts.
You got to try out their 1911 patches. The 1911 patches are gorgeous.
Yes, Weird loves the 1911 patch.
Cocked and locked, baby. It's cocked and locked. Awesome.
So check that out, patriotpatch.co. So until next week, have fun, or until tomorrow, actually, this time, have fun and safe shooting.